Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. I'm here for the October issue of Stash Bash. Each month a bunch of crafters get together and figure out how to use up some of the supplies that we've been collecting. This month we are going to focus on 6x6 pads. Stay till the end because I have a big giveaway for you. So these are the 6x6 pads that I'm going to use. They are both from Queen & Co. One is a 6x6 matte stack of stripes and the other is Delightful Dots. I have some square dies from My Favorite Things. These are the Crustish Edge dies, and so I'm going to take a larger size and then a smaller size. I'm going to use these to cut out the 6x6 pattern paper and use it on my layout as mats for my photos. So you can see that I am using a plate that allows me to cut through at least 2 pieces of pattern paper at a time. This way I can get all of my die cutting done quickly and then work on my layout. I'm cutting out Roy G. Biv colors, adding in some pink for fun, and I'm cutting a mix of the stripes and the dots. The thing that I like about using 6x6 pads on a 12x12 layout is, especially for small photo mats like this, the patterns do not overwhelm the background, the layout, the photos, all of that. So I think 6x6 pads are great to either die cut or punch and then create a grid on your layout. So now I'm going to work on die cutting my photos. You can see that I'm using 4x6 photos, and then I'm going to use the smaller size stitched rectangle die to cut out a small square out of the photo. A bunch of these photos, really, there's only a part of it that I need to use anyway. There's a bunch of open white space, so die cutting it down is actually perfect. Some of them I end up just cutting off parts that I want or just faces. So you can, the great thing about this is that you can see exactly where you're going to cut. Same with if you flip a punch upside down. And I have done another layout like that using punches, and I'll link to that here. But this way I think is also really easy, and you can really get fun shapes. You could die cut hearts, circles, whatever you want. So I've cut down my white cardstock to about 11.5 by 11.5, and I'm going to use some Thermoweb tape runner. It's the Memory Runner XL to adhere that down to a dark gray cardstock. And now I'm going to lay out my photo mats in Roy G. Biv order for the most part. You're going to see that I do change it up a little bit as I get further down because I don't want 2 different colors next to each other or on top of each other. So I forgot the yellow there, had to add that in. And you can also see that I'm trying to not have the dots be next to each other so that there's a nice mix of stripes and dots on this layout. So I like that, and I think that this layout grid format is really easy to have a nice clean layout with a ton of small photos and lots of pattern papers. And so 6x6 pads are really perfect for this style of layout. It keeps the clean look to the layout while adding a lot of touch of fun as well. So I'm going to use the tape runner on the back of these grids, and I'm trying to maintain the same margin on the sides and in between the squares. And I'm just eyeballing this. If I really wanted to get crazy, I could, use a ruler and measure and lines and a T-square and all of that good stuff. And really at this point, I feel like I can eyeball it enough that it's straight enough that it doesn't drive me crazy. So once I have all those stuck down, then I'm looking at this other blue square and I'm thinking I might end up using it. But what I'm going to end up doing here is just figuring out which of these squares are going to hold photos, which are going to hold journaling, and which are going to hold the title. So that photo that I put in the middle, that's my favorite. That has the 2 of my kids together. So then I have in the corners photos of my son, and then in the diagonal opposite corners photos of my daughter. And I had other photos die cut, but I decided that I didn't really need them. So I'm going to use some foam tape on the back of the photos. I really like the way that pops the photos up. So you have all kinds of texture from the cross-stitch dies, and now you have dimension as well from the foam adhesive. And this foam adhesive is my favorite because it just gives the tiniest amount of lift. It's not way popping off the page, and it's pretty consistent and even as well. So I will link to everything that I used in this layout down below. So if you're looking for a good dimensional adhesive or a good tape runner, I have both of those linked down below. So once I have all my photos adhered, then I have to think about the other 4 open squares. And I really wasn't sure what I was going to do at this point. And so I looked at that extra photo or two, but what I decided was I had die cut this piece of blue into the same size square, and I'm going to line up the corners of the edge of my Tonic Studios Tim Holtz trimmer and just slice down, and that's the perfect way to get 2 triangles out of a square. So I'm going to use these on these yellow and light blue on the horizontal line here. I'm going to put one in the upper corner and one in the lower corner, and I think that just adds like just a touch of interest here on that middle row, just something different. And I thought about doing it for the pink and the orange as well, but I decided I wanted my title there and I didn't want it too busy. So I think that using the Jelly Bean Soup Alpha Beans, these are new and they are so much fun to use. I love the way that they have a pattern and a color on the top and then the white on the bottom. So I'm going to put the word pool in this pink square, and then I'm going to put the word fun in the orange square, and I'm going to use 2 different colors so that we're just continuing that whole rainbow feel. And I think again, when you have the 6x6 pad with those smaller sized patterns, you can see that this layout is coming together and nothing is overwhelmed. You can read the title, you can see the photos, you'll be able to read the journaling once I add that in, and that's really the beauty of using 6x6 photos on a 12x12 layout like this. Okay, so I printed out some journaling, and the way that I did it was I put 3 spaces in between each word. And the reason that I did that is because I wasn't sure how long I wanted each strip to be. And I was even thinking about cutting out each word, but I didn't do that. So I'm just going to cut all the strips down into long horizontal strips. And then I'm just going to take scissors and decide how long I want each phrase to be. There's a couple of phrases that are on their own. There's a couple of words that are on their own line. That's obviously going to be one phrase by itself. And when I use the Tonic Studios trimmer, the Tim Holtz trimmer to do this, I'm using the edge of that guide there, that plastic guide. If you line the letters up right to the edge of that plastic guide and then cut, you end up with a nice margin that's pretty even when you cut. So that's how I use that trimmer. That works for me. And then I was just trying to decide how I wanted these strips. I was going to tuck them into the corner there, but that really wasn't going to work because the corner is different on both sides. Then I thought maybe I would just kind of variegate exactly, how each would be. Then I thought I'd maybe line them up justified to the right. I really was just playing around at this point and wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. So I started with this where it was kind of going along the edge of the yellow there. But once I did the other side, I didn't like that. So again, I'm using the trimmer. You can see here, I'm lining up the words right touching the bottom of the plastic guide. And when you do that, you get just a nice little margin, not too much, not too little. You're not cutting off any of the words, but you get enough to make a nice little strip there. So again, I'm going to take my scissors and just cut off that last phrase there. And then now it's kind of deciding how many words per phrase do I want. And I just have a couple because I want these strips to be kind of small. I want them to be in the square and I don't want them hanging off or anything like that. So then I decided maybe what I'll do is line them up in the center of the square. And that seemed to work the best. So I'm going to line them up right in the center of the square. You can see that this square has more journaling than the other square. I just didn't want to start a sentence on the other square and then have it going on to the next square. I don't know. So I decided to take some foam tape and some nonstick scissors. It's important to use nonstick scissors when you're cutting foam tape because it gets really sticky, and just cut it in half. And this way I could pop up all of these little strips, and I think that would go nicely with the dimension that we added behind the photos as well. So basically what I'm doing is laying down the strip on the edge of the foam tape there, and then before I lay down the second edge, I'm just cutting with my scissors. See, I just lift it up and then just cut, and that gives me just enough foam tape to keep that whole little phrase popped up without having to measure again or deal with, foam tape hanging out the side, which I don't know why, but that just drives me nuts. It happens to me a lot when I'm making cards, especially. I'll just cut a foam tape and put it underneath, and then just this tiny little white speck will be hanging out on the edge, and I don't know why. I just can't stand it. I have to go in and try and trim it, and that's usually a disaster too. So now I'm just peeling off the release paper and laying it down, and I decided, instead of trying to be all straight and rigid, because the rest of this is very straight and linear and grid-like, I'm going to tilt the little journaling strips and give them a little bit of whimsy there. So I don't know. Maybe I like this, maybe I don't. I'm not 100% sold on it. But I do think, especially when you have a bunch of strips together, trying to make them perfectly straight, I don't know, it never works out for me. Now I'm going to add a little bit of bling. These are from Queen & Co. These are the donuts, and I have them in the entire rainbow here, but I didn't want to use them all over the squares. I wasn't going to put them on the photos, but I decided I was going to have them on the title blocks, and then I was going to have them on the journaling squares as well. Though that right-hand journaling square, again, that's a little tough to fit in, but I really like having the yellow on the yellow, the pink on the pink. I think that looks really cute. So once that's done, that pretty much completes my layout. And this was so much fun to put together. Once you do all the die cutting of your photos and your 6x6 papers, it's really a breeze, and it's just having fun puzzle piecing everything together. So I hope that you are hopping through this Stash Bash and getting some ideas on how to use your 6x6 pads on your layouts. This is my giveaway. I have a bunch of 6x6 pads. Now, not all of them are brand new. Some of them, like you can see, have some squares punched out or some pages, but there are a few, like this pink paisley one, brand new, never been used. This Echo Park one, brand new, never been used. I have a Simple Stories, Crepe Paper Oasis, Snow and Cocoa, some Pink Fresh. There's a whole bunch. So all you have to do to win this giveaway is subscribe to my YouTube channel and then comment down below. And I will keep this open for about a week. I'll have all the information down below as well. You're going to hop along very soon. I'm going to have the links to all of the other YouTube channels and the person that you're going to visit next down below again. I want to thank you so much for stopping by today, and I want you to have a really great day. But before you go, make sure that you hit subscribe here on that left-hand button. You can visit my blog on the right, and you can check out the other Stash Bash videos and then the other grid video that I did most recently. So again, thank you so much for stopping by today, and have a wonderful day.